I mean, listen, it comes down to really the same thing. Are you accessible to the client? This is not a Monday to Friday 9 to 5. This is what I always say. This is eyes open to eyes shut, Monday to Monday, right? If you want to be successful. If a client wants to see a house and it's 7 p.m. on a Sunday, tough shit, right? Hopefully you're not into football.
Welcome back to another episode of Intrepidus Podcast with your hosts, Dan and Anthony. Today's guest is Abdel Khawatmi. He's from PRMG Mortgages, yet another mortgage broker on the scene, but I think he has a little bit different take on new customer retention and his values. So welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure. Why don't you tell the guests? Well, we know what mortgage brokers do, but why don't you start by telling us what mortgage brokers do in your eyes?
Sure. So mortgages obviously correlates directly with real estate, right? Real estate is one of the most powerful assets that people can buy. So mortgages for us specifically usually takes a look at, there's two different avenues, right? Residential, commercial. Residential, when you're qualifying for a mortgage, we take a look at something called the 4 C's. So we're going to look at your credit score, we're going to look at your capital, where's your money coming from, your collateral, what are you buying, and then the last thing is just based on your capacity. How much can you actually afford, or DTI, right? On the commercial side, it's a little bit different where credit plays a role, but it's really based on the cash flow. Does the property cash flow, is it actually covered, vacancy rate, right, cap rate, all that fun stuff, right? And then we obviously, so we're a direct lender. So we're not brokers, so we're not going out there, doing the shopping and all that stuff. I own the branch, so we keep our margins super, super thin. The market's obviously shifting and expanding throughout, right? From pre-COVID, during COVID, post-COVID to where we're at right now. And I take such a big approach, man, in understanding the market, right? When Dan and I first met, we were diving into that. We were talking about inflation, employment. Now you got tariffs being thrown around. And it's so important for us to understand that because consumers out there, we're dealing with millennials to Gen Zs to Gen X to baby boomers to all that, right? So it's so many different relationships that are out there. Some clients, the first thing I ask them is, what's your preferred communication method? Is it email? Is it text? Is it phone, right? And then from there, we'll be able to kind of pivot our approach and educate them. So,
Right. So, we talked a little bit about your value add because, in the mortgage space, you said super competitive. Like everybody does it.
Sure.
Yeah, you might shop 100 mortgages, but we really know that they might not be.
Sure.
But you spoke a little bit about your value add and like why you do what you do and how why your customers and their experience is different. Talk a little bit about what sets you aside from everybody else.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think every business, not just in mortgages, rules down to the 3 things, right? Sales, service, and support. So from sales side, it's your communication with your client. It's the education approach that we take. I'm not the phone, right? I want to jump on Zoom. I want to show your options. I want to do the full-blown financial analysis as to what works specifically for you, right? Because your parents who bought a house before, or even your brother who bought a house last month, their situation is going to be much unique from yours, right? So I need to identify, where are you looking? What do you prefer? What's the school systems? Do you have kids? Are you active? What's the sports area? Stuff like that, right? So we do such a deep dive with the client where even when we close with them, we're doing quarterly financial reviews. And it's usually diving into, hey, do you have a financial advisor? Do you have 529 set up for your children? Are you actually having an intention to remodel your home? Then we'll connect them with guys like Dan, or we'll connect them with contractors who actually have the ability to invest back into their property. They'll get all that access to our network and take it from there, right? Then, like I said, on the service side, it's really just hyper fast closing. I mean, we're closing statistically in less than 16 days. Wow. Soup to nuts, start to finish. We've closed some clear to close in 3 days, 7 days. So everything is in-house, truly in-house. From underwriters, processors to, like we said, before we came here, one of my team called you, yo, heads up, I'm on my way. Might be running a little late. The weather is crappy out. So it's giving that hands-on kind of white glove service, right? Without hiding behind, hey, I work for a big name company or whatever it is, right? And then the last is support. So we're in your face. We've got 560 plus videos on YouTube, 30,000 plus followers on Instagram, and it's just pumping content after content, really in an effort to educate the consumers and constantly stay consistent. We do Monday market updates at 6 p.m. live, really to just educate the consumers what happened in the past market, what's heading into this market, and then just rinse and repeat from there.
So take us back to the start of your entrepreneurial journey. You obviously are good in business. You're educated in business. You're really out there for the consumer to bring value to the marketplace. Take us back to where this entrepreneurial inspiration came from, and maybe some of the changes along the way to become that entrepreneur that you are today.
Yeah, great question. I mean, listen, I started off, I was originally going to school at Rutgers, Newark, going originally for law school, pursuing political science. And then my wife gave birth to our little one. You know, here I am, I'm a 20-year-old kid, 19-year-old kid about to find out that I'm about to have a kid, right? So we were blessed with, you know, the support of our friends and family. We never took time off. We just thugged it out. My wife gave birth January, which was our spring semester. We pushed it through, didn't skip school. But I was always one to work, man. I mean, I worked at, back then, if you guys remember, Newark Airport, Gallagher Steakhouse. Yeah. So I would literally go, you know, work the 4 a.m. shift, 4 till 1, because that was like the breakfast into lunch shift. And then I would finish and then start my classes at 3 and then take night classes and thug through, right? But it was always working, right? I think every single person at one point in their life probably worked in the restaurant industry, right? We've all kind of been there. And I was making a lot of money, especially whether it was at the steakhouse or working at different restaurants. And then eventually I was like, screw this. I got to go back to my passion of what I wanted to do. So I went back to get my master's in risk and compliance at Montclair State, and then dove back into working at a law firm, super successful PI firm, stuck there for about 5 years. And eventually, you know, just pushing through, building tight relationships with clients. I handled specifically the litigation settlement distribution. So every single case, if it was settled pre-litigation, which was my intention, I got paid more. If it was settled post-litigation, and that was a negotiation that I had with the managing partner, where if I can get cases settled pre-litigation, I want to cut off of the top, right? So from being a 22-year-old kid, I was negotiating as to, well, if we get paid this, I want a cut of that, right? And if that's cool, because we're saving what we would pay an attorney in order for it to go to litigation, and then obviously having to take, you're losing more off the top. Let me push and get us full policy. At that time, it was like $15K max BI, and then we'll go after UM or UIM coverage and all that, right? But as I started building close relationships with clients and then the paralegals and the attorneys themselves, people were getting their cases settled. What do you do when you get $100,000, $200,000, $300,000, you know, in your Rolodex? You want to buy a house, right? So I was passing them off to a couple of friends here and there with no intention of a return, right? Just like, dude, take care of them, hook them up. These are good clients of ours, right? And build a relationship. And then, you know, the common, you know, I'm sure you had mortgage guys on the podcast before, the common norm, there's no communication.
Always.
Right? There's just the ball's getting dropped, same conversation with realtors and all that. And I was like, you know what, man, I think I could do this. Took the class, stayed at the firm for about a year and a half, till I really built the Rolodex of clients, built the Rolodex of referral partners. So when I got my mortgage license, then I went back to the attorney, and then I'm like, hey, they were only PI. Why don't we start doing real estate? So we started doing real estate. Same thing. If we get real estate, you and I split the attorney fee, right? I'll handle all the work. You don't have to do anything, blah, blah, blah. And it worked out because I started getting, obviously, comp from there. So I think that entrepreneurial spirit kind of started building out from the building it. And then, listen, man, and then 1 month, 2019, I had like 6 closings in a month. And then I was like, I think there's something here, right? You know, went to my company, and then I'm like, listen, I want to build out, you know, my own solo branch, and I know we can crush it, right? And since then, we never turned back. We've been constantly number 1, number 2 originator in the entire country. So
why do you go from? So you had the opportunity you had 2 choices at that point. It seems like you could have went the real estate route where, you know, you just sell houses, right? You obtain the clients through the PI firm or otherwise, and then you find them a house.
Yeah.
But instead, you went with mortgages. Why is that?
Great question. So, you know, I was always a numbers guy, right? Always loved numbers. I also don't think I have, you know, I am not the guy that has patience to drive people around in my car and show them a house, and then they get there and they're like, I don't like it. And I'm like, well, you know, come on. Like, you saw the pictures, dude. Cut the shit. So that's not me. I've never been one to do that. I'm more, like I said, heavy on the advising side. And it's conversations I have with referral partners all the time is, when we work with a client too, you're a client for life. Like, I'm that lender for life. And it comes down to mindset, right? Your mindset's either your greatest asset or your greatest liability. And you really got to be able to just hone in on that client and not look at him as a dollar figure, right? I think it was about 78 or 79% of real estate agents haven't even sold a home. And I think like 0.1% sold more than 45, right? And it's a crazy stat. Mortgages is even worse. There was like, and there's always numbers that are thrown out, but there was like 480,000 LOs pre-COVID, and now there's like 93,000, right, outside of banks. So huge shift in dynamics. Our business has constantly grown, and I mean like 120%, 128%. Wow. And I monitor every KPI in the world, right? We're sitting there and looking at contact established, no contact established, to vetting lead sources, to vetting realtors. I actually cut relationships with realtors, right? With most loan officers usually don't, right? But I'm sitting there and I'm like, well, my team is giving you this value add, that value add, but then we're receiving back X, or consumers complaining that, you're not picking up the phone or there's no availability. That's a replication on myself as well as a partner. We got to figure out where's the disconnect and take it from there. So
what is the value add from a real estate agent? Like, so if a real estate agent wants to work with you specifically for
like our value adds for partners for real estate agents.
Well, your value from the real estate agent. You said you cut some off, which I've never actually heard before. It's the first time I've ever heard this. So.
Yeah. I mean, listen, it's it comes down to really the same thing. Are you accessible, right, to the client? This is not a Monday to Friday 9 to 5. This is what I always say. This is eyes open to eyes shut, Monday to Monday, right? If you want to be successful. If a client wants to see a house and it's 7 p.m. on a Sunday, tough shit, right? Hopefully you're not into football, right? And even if I'm a Giants fan, so it's not worth fucking watching them anymore. But it's that, man. It's the consistency also of obviously reciprocation of business, right? What are we building on? How can we truly build that relationship? Are you open to educating consumers, doing home buying seminars, jumping on lives, hosting Zoom sessions, right? Would you be open to jumping on a Zoom with the client while we have them live, right? Last year, obviously, was the introduction of the buyer agency commission agreements. So how are you doing, Mr. and Mrs. Realtor? Oh, some people sign, some people don't. Well, what's the number? I don't know. Well, that's a problem, right? We need to be able to hone in on every single portion of your business in order for us to identify something in a click of 2 buttons. As like, all right, well, I spoke to 30 clients and 10 didn't sign. So at a 20-10 ratio, how can we improve that? Do you introduce the lender earlier? Do you lean on our resources? We've got 600 plus reviews. We're like 605 online, all 5 stars. Do you lean on our reputation to kind of help out simultaneously? What is it that we can do to help bring in more consumers, bring in more partners, and build that strong Rolodex of clients, and then just keep it going?
So I like listening to you. I'm just like sitting here and like almost wow, like kind of like hear me talking through you.
Yeah.
I can tell you without even ever asking you, personal development has been something major in your life, because I just hear it through the words you speak, through the way you have developed. And I don't know you from years ago, but I could tell that the person you are today is not the person you were back then. What are important factors for personal development for you, and when did you start getting involved or heavily involved in personal development to help you gauge to the person that you wanted to be?
That's a great question. Listen, for me, it's always the 4 F's, right? It's faith, family, fitness, and finance, right? And then the last one I throw in is freedom too, right? But faith, obviously, I'm a man of God, so we're here because of Him, and obviously ensuring that my children are raised based on that. To obviously family for me is essential, right? I don't wake up at 4 a.m., hit the gym, grind, be in the best shape of my life just for me, right? It's to make sure show that to my children as well, right? I lost my father last year, so that was also a huge shift into those first 2, right? Because finance, I always made bread, right? That was listen, I'm in this world and I'm working. I ain't working to make a paycheck, right? I'm working to build generational wealth for life. But when my father passed, it was really something that hit tight home, because I'd be working in the office, and it was by choice, but I'm working in the office till 10, 11 o'clock at night, and my kids are home. And I'm thinking I'm doing the right thing, right? Bringing all the money, right? First millionaire in the family, first person to graduate with the master's, do all that. And I was just checking off boxes, but then I would come back and then it was like kids are knocked out, you know, wife is asleep. And I'm like, this is not, and it's funny. There's no such thing as a work-life balance.
It's impossible.
There's what I say is a work-life harmony,
Yep.
right? One day you're grinding for work, or one day you're grinding for family.
It's a pendulum.
Right? So it works both ways. My wife and I have been together for 17 years, right? From literally 18 years old. And one day I'm operating at 99%, she might be operating at 1, right? One day she's operating at 90%, I might be at 10, burnt out, exhausted, right? So, and then obviously fitness. I mean, for me, it's a non-negotiable, right? You wake up in the morning, 4 a.m., you get your shit, you take your vitamins, you take your pre-workout, you get in the gym, whether you want to or not. I got smacked with the flu like 2 weeks ago. I was down for the count. Still went to the gym, sat in the sauna, and I've got the whole shebang at home. I've got the sauna, I've got the gym set up, but I need to be out and about. And I'm usually only repping Got Mortgages gear. Decided to put on a suit for you guys, but I'm usually only in Got Mortgages gear. I do not rep anything else. And obviously you're in the gym, people coming up to you, they see you talking to one cat, then they hear you speaking, and then they're obviously coming to you. So now I've built relationships with a lot of the guys. I go to Attilas and Brick, which is awesome. So a lot of the guys there are cops, military, you know, or business owners. I mean, those are the only fuckers waking up at 4:30 to hit the gym consistently. But I built strong relationships to the point where one of the guys down there who runs the training out in Seagirt had me come out and present to about 80, 90 plus different guys in law enforcement about the benefits of home ownership. I got about 4 mortgages from that since, right? And then you're constantly just building it, and I think it comes down to authenticity, man. Like I'm not going to bullshit you. I'm not going to tell you that we have the lowest rates. I'm not going to tell you that we have the lowest fees, right? You want that, go on the internet, go close in 60, 90 days, and an agent will never give you the time of day because they're not going to understand that, right? If you want to be educated, understand the tax incentives and what it is that we could do, and I can connect you with the right tax preparers and financial advisors and CPAs, and make sure you're taken care of with the interest rate, with the program. Oh, you got all this money that you want to sell. Why are we pouring so much to buy the house? Let's pour 20% or 25% and reserve the rest for an investment property. Or let's take that and roll it into a Roth IRA, or set up the 529s for the kids, or invest it in some stocks and take it from there.
Sure.
That's the relationship that we're building with the clients, right? Not just, oh, I'm so excited to talk to you and I'm going to give you a pre-approval. That's going to come, right? I'm going to allow the education and the advice that we're going to give you to reciprocate that. So
Chris from Tillis, good friend of mine. He's built such a dynasty. I think it's an amazing experience that someone could not only have a relationship with you for a mortgage, but you can take them into other places of their life that financially benefit them.
yeah.
And what I can tell you is that hearing your story about your dad, I think it ultimately takes a hardship in our life oftentimes to make us realize what we're sacrificing most, which is what we strive for most.
Yep.
And with your situation with your dad, it was similar for me. Like when I got divorced, so I used to work so much, and then I was forced to spend 50% of my time with my kids. And I'm like, oh my God, like I can't work. Like, what am I going to do? But it created such an amazing experience with my children. And it allowed me to, when I didn't have them, literally do everything I had to do. And then when I did have them, focus on them. But because of my divorce, it allowed me to be present.
Yeah.
It allowed me to be there for the reason why I was doing what I was doing. We become so tunnel vision in a space where we feel like, oh, we're sacrificing everything,
For
but
them.
we're really sacrificing what we try to strive for most.
Yeah, and it's funny, man. It took such a long time. I mean, my dad came from the restaurant industry. It's kind of how I got stuck into it, and I'm sure most of us probably kind of did too. He's owned restaurants, but you know, seeing him, it was 9 a.m., 10 a.m., right, to open the restaurant till 10, 11 o'clock at night, right? But I still remember as a kid, my dad would always come back during the lunch shift to dinner shift to be there, right, to help us out with homework. So that's always been something that I remember. But it's funny, as a kid, you're like, oh, this dude just goes to fucking work, right, and didn't think of us. As you got older, then you started remembering, well, he actually used to come back to help out with homework and do that. So, we're blessed to, you asked about real estate. I mean, real estate, you've got to be in the car, right? And I haven't figured out a way to clone myself to be home and have people show stuff. Mortgages, I think, gives you a little bit of that flexibility, especially post-COVID, where it's acceptable now to not meet somebody face to face, right? Where you can do Zoom and still really have that same effect. To, like I said, my consults, I really, really push to do a virtual call. Like, it has to be on virtual, because we're not just diving into, we'll talk a little bit about mortgages, right? But we're not just diving into just, hey, your monthly payment is $4,000, your cash to close is $60,000. All right, here's your piece of paper, deuces. No, we need to jump on a call. I need to find out, why are you buying? Is this your first home? So usually payment, cash to close is important, but also how long are you keeping the house? 10 years. Okay, well, specifically in, say, Tom's River or Freehold or whatever area, homes are appreciating at, say, 6%. Okay, so if you buy this property right now, in 10 years, by the time you sell it, it's going to be worth X. Does that make sense? Yes, great. Now, if you wait to buy, and I tell the clients, I am not selling you, but if you wait to buy, the cost of waiting, of losing out on that appreciation, is going to be X. Does that make sense? And it's all in graphs. So it's not just me telling you, it's showing it to them live with the tech stacks that we have in front of them, where I'll say, well, say Union County is only appreciating at, say, 3.7%, but Middlesex County is appreciating at, say, 6.5%. Can I open that radius? Would we be open to it? Might be an additional 15-minute commute. Yeah, great. Remember, the value of the home is going to jump up. Now I can call the realtor and be like, hey, you guys only had 20 homes to options. Now we got 50 because I've expanded that search.
Right. So you're a very data-driven person, obviously. I'm surprised that you went for a law degree instead of accounting. But here we are. So you decided to
and I wasn't like that, too. Like,
really?
You brought a good question, right? Which was just, it's how you integrate and innovate all the time, right? You're constantly changing, working on the initial stuff that you did to be successful, right? Because most of us sometimes will forget the basics of what got us to the success, and then just have the same maybe new conversations that you're having. And that's something I always try to keep myself in check, right? These are the basic questions that we need to ask the clients. And then these are some, innovative questions based on the times changing. But I never used to know anything about like inflation or employment or anything till about like 3-4 years ago. Because to be honest, back then it wasn't relevant, right? Nobody gave a shit about inflation. Nobody cared about employment. It was pretty steady. It never impacted the market or anything. And then obviously COVID hit, and you could be, a 5-year-old kid like my son and sell a mortgage, right? Rates were 2s and 3s. It was easy. Then where we really became truly successful over the last 3 years is just as the market got harder, again, we weren't afraid to change business models, right? We were open to learning about data. The Masters in Compliance helped out because now I understood all that stuff, right? I understood if this happened, if that happened, and then take it, absorb it in the simplest terms, and then explain it to the consumer based on what they're looking for, right? And then take it from there.
Yeah, so I mean, being a data-driven business, I mean, it's preaching to the choir, right? Mentioning KPIs, it's like it gets me up in the morning.
You guys are like twins with this shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm very surprised. I'm surprised. Well, that's the whole thing. I'm genuinely surprised, impressed, and happy to hear that you're a data-driven business, because quite frankly, that's what all good businesses are. They're
you got to know your numbers
based off data.
Yeah,
right. Google wouldn't be Google if it didn't have data. That's literally what it is, data enterprise. So, what made you make that shift? Is that just something? Because I feel like that's innate. It's not something that you pick up one day. It's something like, I think that this should be measured, and therefore it is our KPI, and it's going to lead to this much success. We have done that, internalized in our business as well, and seen exponential growth, right? But what made you make that decision to, hey, we're going to measure this for success, and then evaluate and grow off of this number?
Yeah, I mean, listen, you got to start somewhere, right? So I think it comes down to when you get to a point in your business where you're pushing through, you're grinding, it's also monitoring all the revenue that you're making too, what's coming in and what's coming out. So that's a big part of my business too, where every single month, right, we're tracking invoices spent, what's going towards marketing, what's going towards expenses, what's going towards salaries, what's going towards obviously business development and stuff like that. And I think it truly started first for me was on that avenue, right? Is where's my money coming from? I have X amount of budgeted expenses, right? Based on that, P&L is super, super healthy, but it needs to stay healthy. And I've always been the guy that's like, how do I keep adding zeros, right? And automating stuff. So AI is huge in my business, right? Because it's allowed me to save hundreds of thousands of dollars over the years. Just recently, about 6 months ago, we implemented a new stack where you can upload a client's W-2s, tax returns, and bank statements, and it spits back the income in like 10 seconds.
Wow,
Yeah, you can
beautiful.
put images in AI. It's crazy.
So that saved me 72 grand on a salary.
And what do you use for AI currently?
Well, that
platform is
platform is called Friday Harbor.
Okay.
There's other ones, obviously your typical ChatGPT. Canva's got some built-in AI, so I use Canva a lot. So it's making the designs and stuff. Zapier, so I'm using Zapier all the time, integrating various different
Zapier's
sources
great.
together. Yeah. That's it. I mean, listen, I've got an awesome team of admins, right? Both in person and virtual. But talking about that also was while I was tracking the KPIs, you're spending X amount in salaries to a native person, right? To do, say, admin tasks, draft contracts, for partners, do this, do that. That was costing me about $20 an hour that I can easily outsource, follow all compliance channels correctly, and get 4 people to do the same, and probably more efficiently too.
Unfortunate truth.
Yeah, I mean, listen, but all your you named Google, larger organizations. I mean, you call nowadays to get tech support, and you clearly know it's outsourced, right? But talking on that aspect specifically is anything that you give to your team, though, and we shared this before we went live, was just how do you want them to do it, right? It's the who, what, where, when, how. Who do you want it to do it? How do you want them to do it? Where do you want them to do it? And do you have, like, we use a platform called Scribe. So it literally,
I love Scribe.
so it's like taking screenshots as you're moving. So if I want them to do something specifically, I'm going to record my screen, right? But I'm also going to take the screenshots and screen grabs, and it does it immediately. So instead of me like old school ways, right? You take the snipping tool and then you plug it in a Word doc and trying to make it. This does it by itself. So now I start teaching our partners, right? Because my team is there not just to support us, but support our partners. So now it's like, hey, what do you want them to do? Oh, I need help with invoices. I need help with this. But what do you need help in? Like, what is it specifically about, say, invoicing that you need assistance with? Is it the data entry part? Okay, now let's get deeper into that. About data entry, what do you want them to enter? Client, or let's talk about real estate, buyer, seller, right? And then breaking it down even further, contact established, no contact established, they want to see properties or don't want to get pre-approved, to your FSBOs, to your expireds, to how are you organizing that? And it's funny, every single person's CRM, the cliche saying, right, the best CRM is the one that you use. But I think you just got to start, right? And I think that's where a majority of people usually get scared about is you have the fear to get started, right? Get started. If you don't get started, you're not going to know what mistakes you're going to make and how much failure you're going to have, right? But that's it, man.
I did a podcast yesterday about perfectionism and how people try to make everything perfect before they start. Every person who's done something of significance was so shitty when they first did it, but at least they started, and that's what made them different. Like I talked about LinkedIn. Remember LinkedIn when LinkedIn came out?
Yep.
How bad LinkedIn was?
Oh, it's terrible.
It was terrible. Well, now look at LinkedIn today, and what they've done.
It's
but
huge.
He wasn't scared to create what he created.
Yeah, I think it's amazing. I was thinking something on the way here, as a matter of fact, because every single person that we have, well, not every single person, but a lot, except for you. So thank you, because this is going to be an easy conversation. But a lot of people that come on the pod, they're afraid to hire, right? Their first hire, their second hire, their fourth hire, because they continue to say, I can't clone myself. And you don't need to clone yourself. Quite frankly, I think it's kind of egotistical to say, well, there's not another me. Yeah, no shit, there's not another you. However, it's all about consistency, right? And it's not, things might be difficult, but it's not complexity that fixes it. It's just consistency. And it's like, you didn't know this thing in the very beginning. So take, for example, if you wanted to run a mile, right? And you run a mile every single day for 30 days. At the end of the month, you're going to be able to run a
you'll
mile
hit it in 6
exceptionally
minutes,
well.
7 minutes.
Now, if you did it twice a day, how much better are you going to be at that mile at the end of the 30 days? The same thing applies to training, right? And you creating SOPs. We do the same exact thing in our business through Scribe, which is fucking phenomenal, by the way. We should get fucking sponsored by Scribe after this episode. But
Get on it.
People are afraid to face-to-face sit down and train because they don't think that they're going to be able to do the thing that they're doing currently, which allows them to expand and grow in multiple different ways. But the truth is, and you just said it, it's like, no, you sit down, you ask the why, or you answer the why and the how, and then you follow up with additional training. You follow up with the SOPs. You have this Rolodex, this directory of information that everyone has access to 100% of the time, and it makes it easy for you to let go and then buy time. But what I really want to talk about is buying. The fact of talking about buying time is the harmony thing you said before, which I love, by the way. There's no such thing as balance. It's harmony. First time I'm hearing that. So, I'm curious first when you thought that, right? Because one day you're probably like, that makes sense. It's a harmony. It's not a fucking balance. There's no scales. It's just like it needs to flow with each other. When did that come about? And how do you harmonize currently?
Yeah, I mean, when it came about, to be honest, I don't think there was a specific like time. I think it just kind of, as I started getting there, and as I told you, I've been with my wife for 17 years, so there's the constant complaining, where it's like, yo, you're spending too much time in the office, this, that.
Concern, not complaining.
Concern. Yeah, let's play nice. So if she watches it later,
just in case.
But it's also, I think, a big part too. Speaking about your significant other is getting them involved too. Mm-hmm. So when we talk about harmony, is like my wife has access to my calendar, right? And it's partly because I want her to kind of see what we got going on, but it's also I want to see what's happening with the kids. My kids are super, super active. So flag football, lacrosse, MMA, and I need to be present like every single session. And they both do swimming. So I want to, even if I can catch them towards the end, my 13-year-old can care less now, how as they get older. But I know deep down inside she'll be thankful, right? But seeing my 5-year-old son, like the smile when I could just show up, even if it's a little later, coming back from a meeting, you can give me $1 billion in that door to see my son smile, I'll take it in a heartbeat because I can make $1 billion. But seeing my son's heartbeat and seeing him happy, game over, right? And I think it took time, and it took obviously a lot of I do a lot of, again, like meditation. Morning meditation is essential. So when I'm sitting at home in the sauna, that's what goes on, and then I'm listening to whether it's Jim Rohn or so many different professionals who not your typical like. Listen, Tony Robbins is great. One of my favorite back then was like Eric Thomas. Okay. I haven't really seen him much before, but I'll never forget one of the quotes that he said is, when you want to succeed as bad as you want to breathe, then you'll be successful, right? And you think about that because you're like, well, success, again, is not just the financial aspect. It's being able to be like, you know what, kids, we're going on vacation. Non-negotiable, no questions about it. For us, it's a minimum of 1 a quarter, right? To now we've been blessed to a point where it's like we're doing it almost like once a month, right? I was at Miami last week. Next month I've got DR. The following is Tulum, and then we'll do domestic. And then usually June to August is why we live in Jersey, right? Right. That's the summertime. Why we moved down, to Ocean County. You got the pool. You got this. So I think that harmony really comes in that figuring it out along the way. Listen, there's times where like I've got 4 events this week. Sucks. I don't want to do them. And I told you I stopped drinking, which has been a huge difference maker, in just how I feel, to cutting out food. And it really came from my doctor, because I went and she's like, your liver enzymes are high. Listen, we're all juiced up. We all go to the gym. Everybody does it. And we've been consistent at, we know what to do, how to come off, how to do your post cycle. She's like, hey, your liver enzymes are high. So for me, I'm like, holy shit, I need to like cut back on alcohol, cut back on drinking, went back. And she's like, what'd you do? And then I'm like, to be honest, I just cut out, like you've been telling me to diet. Everybody knows we have to diet, but do you have the discipline to do it? No, it fucking sucks. But for me now, it's been like an even bigger high where I'm literally throwing events, open bar, I'll take a club soda. And now it's like a high because you're like, yeah, I could actually have the discipline to be like, I'm good. Don't throw tequila in there. Like, I'm okay. Now, when you go on vacation, you might slip, but I'm still the guy. I'm the sucker who's waking up at 5 a.m. asking the staff, hey, can you do me a favor? Can you open the door? You know, to get into the gym if it's not 24 hours. And, you know, that's it, man. I mean, you know, we'll have fun. I'm not the one for the flashy car, right? I was driving a great 2024 Dodge Hemi Ram, which I wasn't driving around too much until I started doing a lot of consulting work, you know, and then I was spending like $1,400 in gas. And I was like, all right, this is not worth it. Right? Wow. So I went completely opposite to a Tesla. Totally opposite. I mean, whole end of the world. But for me, it was cheaper. And I saved basically my energy bill is like $150 more now relative to $1,400. And it's got a sweeter look, right? So
Can't see your gorilla ass getting out of a fucking Tesla.
I was gonna say, I hope it's not a Cybertruck.
I'm not. No, it's a Y, and I'm not gonna lie. It's pretty spacious, right? Because you know we think of our cars, right? The front dash is like all the way here.
It's got nothing in
bulky.
The car.
There's nothing in
It's
there.
blank.
So when you sit in, it's literally, and then it's super sleek in the front. I mean, I'm 6'2". Now I'm 270. You know, like 3 months ago I was like 295.
Lightweight.
And what's crazy is all I did was start doing more cardio, but all I did was cut out booze and not carbs 100%, but really watching it. And it became such a huge difference where you also got a lot of mental clarity too.
You do.
Right?
Where
You're like, dude, like I'm waking up and normally, you know, you're gonna wake up because that's how you are. When I put my phone doesn't stay next to me on the nightstand. It stays on the other side of the room. Or else I'll never go to sleep. I'll be there. So the alarm goes off, and then you're like, fuck. So it's like, gotta get up. So I gotta walk, grab it, put my contacts on, take the vitamins, walk downstairs. I started drinking this mushroom coffee.
Which kind?
Rise, RYZE.
I drink Four Sigmatic. Love it. It's like a decade now.
And it's cool because I started drinking it, taking out pre-workout completely. So drinking that instead. And supposedly it's supposed to help with like gut inflammation and stuff. But again, watching what I eat, then cutting that out, then doing that, you know, you're like, you feel totally different, right? But yeah, man, I mean, it's like I said, it's just constant changing and innovating, right? From personal stuff to professional, I think really helps.
He's so funny. He's like, we're all juice heads. You know what's funny is like, we're not ginormous, but we're big.
Yeah.
But all the guys that are super big, what do you mean, bro? Why you say, I'm all natural, you know what I mean?
Yeah, sure
At the end of the day, bro, listen, we all plug and plunge. And, you know, we do what we have to do. My doctor regulates me.
Mine's prescription.
And you talked about Jim Rohn, and then you talked about Tony Robbins. Jim Rohn and Zig Ziglar are the icon legacies of the inspirational world and how everyone's world changed. Because both of them were philosophers and both of them delivered to the world. And every single person who's ever done something from significance, Tony Robbins learned from Jim Rohn. Darren Hardy learned from Jim Rohn. Most people have learned from Jim Rohn and Zig Ziglar, but they don't get enough credit because people look at the everyday icon today. But those two guys changed the face of personal development for all of us and where we are today.
Yeah, I love listening to Jim Rohn, and why I loved them specifically was, you know, you're as we become in this business, you become just super sarcastic, right? It's kind of like, and he's like that too, right? And funny about it too. But yeah, man, I mean, I told you we run a round table with a bunch of professionals, so they're coming to my office and we're talking about that stuff. We're talking about motivation. We're talking about obviously as times get tough, right? Or, you know, you had my buddy, the power washer here the other day, Tom. So talking about his seasons now and how he gets busy and what we can do to help now introduce him to our clients, right? During, obviously, now they just bought a house. They want to get it washed, or clients who are about to sell, get it washed, add more value, do all that stuff. And then it's a simple plug. It's not a tag on Facebook, right? If there's, we took like the Facebook game to, you know, you join all these Facebook groups, and I talked about it. Somebody posts like, hey, looking for contractor, looking for power washer. Like I'm messaging them directly instead of just doing a tag and then purposely doing a group text immediately with that professional, whether it goes somewhere or doesn't, it is what it is. But letting my partner know, yo, I'm thinking of you, and I'm going to take that extra step. If I don't know that person on a random Facebook group, we run obviously skip traces for all this stuff. We're running a fucking skip trace on the client,
Really?
on that person.
Wow.
Yeah, to plug my boys in,
Yeah.
right? Plug in them, because I know anyone who mentions real estate, right? Even if it has nothing to do with me, somebody who mentions will and estates, they're plugging me in. So now I can go and plug a attorney that I generally work with, who now appreciates the connection, and it's all about connections and networking, right? And putting that connection together with them, which is obviously going to increase that much more reciprocated.
In your gift bag, you're going to have a book that I co-authored with Kyle Wilson. He's actually the founder of the Jim Rohn Foundation.
Oh, wow.
I used to be in a mastermind in Texas at Kyle's house with all different people. I was able to meet Brian Tracy and a bunch of different people through him. And he was actually the creator who brought Jim Rohn to the stage and did everything he did. Had Success magazine and sold it to Darren Hardy. So in your gift bag,
that's
you'll
awesome.
see a book
Yeah,
that I
I'd love that.
co-authored with him.
Yeah, I'm big into reading. Yeah, like I'm reading on Atomic Habits. Probably
Yeah,
like my fourth time.
I think that's out there on the shelf.
Yeah, probably like my fourth time reading it. To
that.
Dale Carnegie, right? To 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, to How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Yeah, great books.
David Goggins, obviously, with his stuff. And yeah.
So you wake up at, you mentioned it quite a few times that you wake up. I guess you're kind of boasting a little bit, but you wake up at 4 o'clock every single day, 4:30.
Yeah, I mean,
how about sleep? How much do you sleep, and what actually is the most difficult thing about getting to sleep? What's on your mind?
Listen, for me, I'm knocked out by like 8.
Good for you.
7:45, 8. I'm fried.
So sleep is
Right.
important to you.
It's crucial.
Paramount.
Listen, there's times, right, where you're out with the kids or you're at a networking event and you're doing this, and sometimes you get home at 9. But yeah, it's crucial, because same thing with the kids, right? Kids got to go to sleep by like 8:15. There's times where I'm passed out before them, to be honest, right? It's funny, you sit in bed and then you're looking at the clock and it's 7:30. And it's kind of sucks now, because this is airing probably whenever you guys get it out in the spring, so the sun's out at like 7.
Mm-hmm.
So you're like, dude, I'm not going to sleep. The sun's still out.
I'm always the
so-
first one knocked out
Yeah.
in the house, hours before everybody else.
I wish
So
I
you got
could.
like the blackout curtains. So I don't
Yep.
care if it's like 1 o'clock in the afternoon, I'm passed out. But yeah, I mean, for me, it's crucial. That's a non-negotiable. Taking care of my mind, my body, mind, body, spirit. It's important. And you do that, right? There's so many times where, especially in the winter, right, we always put on weight. You feel amazing in the gym because now you could easily throw up your 5 plates. You could easily bench whatever the fuck it is. But then you feel fat. So you always have to go through like a winter wardrobe, right?
Yeah.
You gotta pull out the winter suits because they're like a little heavier.
The hoodies are bigger than the
Yeah,
t-shirts.
they're like, you go from large to XL to 2X to, at one point I was going to 3X, and then I'm like, all right, like you gotta chill out. But yeah, it's that transition, man. From, like I said, from that personal to professional to fitness, and then just taking it from there.
I think Anthony's question was, what keeps you up at night? Like when you are oftentimes when you pass out at 8, you might get up at 9 or 10 or 11 or 1 a.m. Like what things keep your mind racing when you're trying to fall asleep?
That's a crazy question. I would probably say really it's did I spend enough time with my kids, and did I spend a little bit more time and effort with my wife, right? Truly, because when it comes to work, it's a non-negotiable. I'm giving it 120%, right? And I'm sure many people say, oh, well, it's to make more money, or make sure my staff is fed, or they're eating before me. That's without a doubt. I'm the last person to eat, and I'm okay with that. But it's did I spend the necessary time? Did I have to pick up that extra? Like now, if a client calls me on the weekend, I'm gonna pick up, but I'm gonna set. And if you ever call me, I don't have a voicemail. It reroutes to the office. So 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. my team's on. So if I'm in a meeting with you right now, my phone's on do not disturb. Right? Your answer's not gonna not get answered. It's gonna go to my office. And then my office is going to go on Calendly, and they're going to book you an appointment based on what I already have going on because it's integrated with my calendar. So, but there's always times where, I'll catch myself, a client's calling, and I'll literally turn back to my kids and I'll say, hey guys, I'm so sorry. I'm going to grab this call. I never used to do that before, right? Or even my wife, hey, I'm so sorry. I have an event tonight. Is it okay if I go? Right? And my wife doesn't care. She's like, go. But I think it's identifying that, am I giving them the right appropriate time? Because we talked about harmony, but harmony, one side, can be, can I keep adding zeros versus can I spend more time with my kids? And I would rather just keep spending more time. And I've got an awesome team, man. I mean, like for me, I can literally go on vacation, not pick up my phone for a week, and I know business is going to get taken care of, right? So
here's a good question. Either one of you can answer. I'm thinking about while you're talking. And why do you think we all have employees? Why do you think employees oftentimes do other things outside of work and take them more serious than they do their job? Like whether it's an extracurricular activity, time with their friends, not even time with their family. Because when you look, we know that our employees can work harder and do more and give more. Mm-hmm. But why do you oftentimes, like, that one employee who's like maybe got a side thing that they do, or maybe a friendship group that they do, or a networking group that they run, or whatever? Why do you think that they attend to that and make those things more important when they should be doing the same at their job?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you want to answer first. Or
you can both answer.
Yeah.
I was just thinking about it, and I was like, I'm just going to ask this question.
Listen, for me, I think it's one, the employee's comfortable in their current position where they're not trying to necessarily maybe go out of their way to do that. For me, all of my employees, from sales guys to operations to support, they're all incentivized, right? So if you pick up that call and you connect me with a successful partner, and they actually have a partnership, you're bonused. Processor, if you close before a certain time under our 16-day, 17-day average, you're bonused. Sales guy, if you hit, sales is tough to bonus appropriately within NMLS guidelines and stuff. But sales guy, if I see you're a stud and you're on and you're not coming in, to the office, but you're on Zoom, right? I'm going to feed you. So I'll bonus you with leads. I'll bonus you with opportunities. I'll bonus you with, I don't speak Spanish. It's my number one, kryptonite. So I hire based off weakness. So all my loan officers speak Spanish. All my support staff speak Spanish, right? So I know for a fact, confidently, that my employees, to an extent, they're really not going to have time for side gigs, to be completely honest.
I'm not even saying that. Even like extracurricular activities, or if they were in like ceramic group. I'm just anything stupid. You know what I mean?
And listen, I hang out with them too. Like we hang out not just during work hours or whatever, but I'm the guy that we go to lunch. Don't ever think about picking up the bill. That's mine. Good. I've always been that person. Or we always do your team events, whether it's your typical Top Golf to Baseline Social. I don't know if you guys ever been to Baseline, cool place, to hanging out, not just at work where we're talking about business, but especially in the summer, because I've got a great setup. So their kids are coming, their husbands are coming, their wives are coming. We're hanging out, we're bullshitting.
So we're all getting. So you see how you bonus them, but what about if they fall short in other areas, but they're only working hard for the things that you bonus them on, but they're falling short because they're focusing on a money-driven activity? I guess that's my question. Is like,
the balance too, right?
Not really so much outside stuff. Even if they're a single person, but they put more time into their friends and their boat. I don't know. I'm just saying.
I honestly think it's strictly human nature, if I'm completely honest with you, right? I think it comes down to, one, complacency, because we do things that are consistent every single day, and we just kind of let things fall to the side. We know that we're doing it right until someone has to show us or tell us that we've done something wrong, right? Because we're just so consistent in it. So I think complacency, and then interest, right? Human nature, you get something new, you do something different, you're going to put all your eggs in that basket, right? You buy a new car. You keep that car fucking spotless. I mean, not even a dust on the fucking bumper, right? For what, 2 months, 6 months at most. But if you have two cars and you have one that you only drive on weekends and you have one that you drive every day, which one gets dirty?
Yeah, everyday car.
Yeah, everyday car, right? The one that drives on weekends is immaculate. I mean, your dog's not even allowed to look at that car, right? And so I think it's just doing the same thing consistently, you get complacent doing it. And so when you have don't have that much time to do these extracurricular activities, in your example, right, you're working 8-10 hours out of the day. You only might get an hour out of the day of whatever this is that you have interest in. Personally, same exact thing applies, right? I do business 90% of the day, 15 hours, but I also like mycology, right? So the study of mushrooms, growing mushrooms, fungus and whatnot. So it's of interest to me. So, outside of work day, I mean, that's 100% focus. Obviously, we can't compare the average employee to people sitting on this podcast, right? But I think it's just simply human nature, and it's something you can't battle.
Yeah, it's a good point. I always root it back to when we talk about employees and stuff like that. At the end of the day, their version of success is going to be our different version of success, right?
Absolutely.
Many times for your average consumer or your average employee, it's going to come down to financial, right? Mm-hmm. Financial, or sometimes an employee comes, they're like, hey, my son's sick, okay, take care of him. Yeah, take care of him first, right? Or hey, I actually have to fight like my right hand partner, who's like my junior underwriter. I have to fight her sometimes where it's like 9:00 at night and she's working, and I can see she's working, and I literally have to be like, dude, stop working, like stop. And she's like, no, I know, I can't sleep. You can't buy that. Yeah. Right. That's just true raw like comfort. She's been with me for 5.5 years,
and that fuels that fire too. When you say stop working, they're like, oh, they noticed that.
You almost wish you could only hire people like that,
dude. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's not all sunshines and rainbows. Like I just had to let go somebody yesterday, and it hurt. Like it still hurts because you're like trying to figure it out. It was a business development role, and I'm like, put me in rooms and do this and do that. But it was so hard because we're so tech driven that it was already being done. Like from our online exposures, from our admins, it was kind of already being done that I kind of felt bad because I'd be like, hey, do me a favor, reach out to a bunch of different financial advisors or CPAs and do that. And then she's leaning on my admins to do it who already know how to do it. But I'm like, no, but I want you to do it.
Right, that's your role.
I need you. If you're going to go to them for support, I might as well just have them do it. Right. And you're costing me
a lot more.
Yeah. So it's a tough balance because you don't want to be that person at the same time. But you give. I'm always one for you give a chance. Here 1, 2, 3. Then after a while, you'll see the writing on the wall that maybe it's time to go. So
right. Yeah. So love your vision. Love what you do for a value add. Love the way you speak. Love the fact that you give away free mastermind groups once a month or
once every 2 weeks. Every other Thursday.
Every other Thursday. So if anyone's interested, give this guy a call. So speaking of which, how exactly does anyone contact you for someone who's an entrepreneur on an entrepreneur journey, or they're looking for a mortgage?
Yep. So gotmortgages.com. That's my brand. Wow. Eat, sleep, breathe it. info@gotmortgages.com. Instagram and all social medias, got_mortgages. We're on all of them, from Facebook, Instagram, Threads, YouTube, LinkedIn, TikTok, the whole shebang. I'd love the opportunity to collaborate with anybody, not just, again, real estate professionals, but all professionals with the effort to grow. So
awesome, Abdel. Well, it was a pleasure having you out here.
Absolutely.
And guys, if you're not following us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, go ahead and do so. We really appreciate it. It helps boost our algorithm.
Please subscribe. Talk soon.